Cloud? Is that you? Oh my god, that makeup! And that dress!
Nailed it, I know, thank you. Moving on.
And welcome back to part 45 of Final Fantasy XII, where today we're taking on the third and final sub-terror of the Pharos Tower, and then doing the Shadow Seer, the optional boss that's down here. And well, it's a hunt, but it's an optional boss really, it's a bit of an event. The black orb crystals that you need to fill in, I mentioned it at the end of the last part in case I forgot today, but I did remember today, so I can tell you again anyway, just in case you jumped to this video. The northwest requires 21 black orbs, the northeast requires 15, southwest requires 12, and the southeast requires 27. So be prepared to use a fair few. Of course I go to the easiest one first, because I was paranoid when I was recording this that I wouldn't have enough if I went to one of the bigger ones first. Because I was hoping if I went to one of the smaller ones first, I'd stumble into the giant orb before I get to the other end. Because if I find the giant orb, if either you or us find the giant orb, you will absolutely have enough at this point to get the rest. That I don't think you'll need to worry too much, if at all, if you've got the other giant orbs as you've gone. Just be wary that the enemies down here will happily confuse you to get you beating up your allies, and if some of the equipment we've got on each other, turning on each other physical attacks is only going to end up killing each other. Especially in Barsh's case. The weapon he's got on him is insanely strong right now. Oh, there's a full facade right there. See, that's why you got to rub up against these walls sometime. Sometimes it results in a good reward. Speaking of good rewards, the second invisible weapon is down here. And it's, once again, an invisible chest, near impossible chance of spawning. But it's in a far more dangerous area. And it's not as good as the one you can get on the airship. Which I find baffling. You would have thought the one that's the most dangerous to be around in would have the best one. But no, this one's the sword. The sword's alright, but it's really nothing special. Because there's a sword, shield, and the bow. The bow is ludicrously insane of how powerful it is. It has nigh on a non-existent charge time, can be equipped by literally anyone because it isn't tied to a license. None of the invisible weapons are. It can use any arrow, so you can really make it just a menace. And its range is bigger than any other bow in the game, so you can attack things from distances where they physically can't attack you back. If you want an easy way of steamrolling the final hunt of the game, Yzmat, just get the invisible bow and stand on the edge of the Colosseum. He can't reach you because it's too big. So then you just sit there and rinse him. There's a similar method you can try and apply to Omega, the secret ultimate super boss of the game, but you have to be more careful because if you get even remotely close to in range of the thing, it will one-shot kill you with its Doom Laser and there's literally nothing you can do about it. The most safe strategy you can use to try and dealing with Omega and its infinite no charge time lasers is reversal and just pray to God you can get the syncing of your timing that every time it runs out someone can put a new one on, because otherwise you just die. Either that or you get close enough to summon an Esper on it, you summon Zeramus and just hope you can one-shot the thing with the reverse Elixir Big Bang strat. But I've got a feeling with how really high its defense is, it won't happen. An idea, if you're adamant on not following a walkthrough and you also don't have the patience to set them one by one, is on the PS4 version, because it auto saves between rooms, just quit to the title screen if you go over. Because this one is the 27, we're on the southeast. So this one's a huge burn. Look, we're now halfway through the orbs we currently had. Look, 26 in and 26 in our inventory. And we've still got a 21 and a 15 to spend. Which is why you see me trying to get the orbs of every single enemy we kill. But this is also the last time you ever need black orbs or anything. Once you're done here, the black orbs never need another purpose. So if you want to get rid of them to clear up inventory space, you're welcome to. I word it like that because, well, they sell for nothing. It's either they either don't sell at all or they're 1 gil. But they're so worthless to sell. They don't mount to anything. They're not worth anything. They're just here for this gimmick and this gimmick alone. So you might as well get rid of them afterwards. but it's just they're so not worth anything. You're getting penny change for getting rid of them. Apparently they're that common. When in reality they should sell for a little bit more, just for the simple fact you can only get them here, and this is like the most dangerous, super secluded area in the game. If you go to any shop, they absolutely shouldn't know what this is. It should be just some divine relic that's appeared in them that you happen to have 99 of, making it a little less divine. I do kind of wish... I'm not going to complain too much because the worst is yet to come, but I do kind of wish the map was a little bit more generous than what it is in the Subterras. Just making it only the crystal rooms is a little annoying for trying to find your way around for some of the secrets down here. Also, we got that black orb, we got it as it registered, so it still flew away, but we technically got it. It's either this one or the one that the Phoenix is in, but I think it's this one where the invisible chest can spawn, and it's in one of the corners. If you just run, once you've dealt with all the enemies here, so no more new will spawn in, and if you want to actually get rid of the urn, like I said, you need to listen to what it says. Like, it's hungry for an elixir, so don't bop it like Barsh just did there. So you see, as soon as I bop it, I start circling around the edge of the room to see if there's anything of worth to take before I leave, because I know it won't be worth it otherwise. And I'm like, please let me get it, please let me get this, please let me get this. And it's a mega elixir. And I'm like, great! Time to go! I just wasn't quick enough on the draw to turn off people's gambits to stop them attacking the magic urn. Always next time though. There's another one I bump into later this part, and I end up cutting because I throw it in an elixir and it just starts running away. And it's like a big area, so I ended up chasing it for a while to get it, so I just cut eventually to when I got it. This is the one actually, I think. You see, I turn everyone's gambits off and do everything in my power to stop them attacking the thing. I'm like, well, no you don't. Now let's go over and see what it wants. And then there's a zombie warlock, so I'm like, okay, manually attack it. Manually attack it. Because manual attacks, if you remember from right at the start of the game, when we didn't have access to gambits, will continue to repeat on the enemy you select. But now we've done that, let's see what it wants. They almost always want an elixir, which is really annoying because that's a really good item you're just wasting away. This is like, he clamours for an elixir. So if you press the bumpers to swap between, we'll give him one. And he rejoices. The moment he rejoices is when you can kill him. Which is why you just saw a cut there, because he just booked it as soon as you kill him. But when you do kill him, they have a chance to dropping some really nice loot. The chances aren't great, so you might just end up wasting elixirs, but they're still worth giving a go. Kind of. To get into it though, the way the magic pot actually works is it's dependent on your chain of how many you get to them, depends on how good your odds are of getting a mega elixir from it when you kill it. The very first one you do, you only have a 1% chance of getting it to drop a mega elixir. The second one you do, 3%, third, 5%, fourth, 7%, and it caps at 7%, which is a bit like, okay, geez, thanks. If you try and steal from it, it has a 10% chance of giving you an elixir, or a 3% chance of giving you a Baltaros seed. Baltaros seeds are just another loot item, but they can be used to get some amazing stuff later down the road. Such as more mega elixirs in the bazaar, or just some decent equipment. So it's always vaguely worth trying to get it, but at the same time, if all of I've listed to you sounds very shallow, the only real reward that might be worth it if you haven't already is that it drops 123 license points and you kill it. And that's probably the last and only thing that would vaguely try and convince you to deal with it. If it wasn't for the fact you've almost definitely either maxed out or almost maxed out your license board by the time you decide to tackle this area. And this is the only area they spawn in. They do also appear on the trial floor, which can be a bit cheeky if you're not expecting it. Because I say, if you bop it once, it becomes invincible and will just spam flare until you die. So if you get to like, I think it's floor 91, just get to it and then just without really paying attention, just bop it once, your run's over. you've got to stop and pay attention to it, which I think is just mean. It's probably one of the main reasons why I'm not going to show off the whole of trial mode when I get to it. I'm only going to show off like the first 20 floors. I show it off whilst it's still reasonable, because it is a fun mode. It's just you don't go into it unless you are absolutely kitted out for every single situation, even the ones you least expect. Oh, you saw me pause there. I was hesitant. It's like, is this the one that's 15? I always like looking back on some of my footage in these. When I'm recording big projects like this, looking back on my footage afterwards is always kind of fun to just see if I can read my old mind, because this was a while ago. Keep in mind, like, I spoke about finishing my recording back when we was in the Paramina Rift. I said around that time that I'd finished the main game, so it's been a good few weeks now. Everything is fully recorded for this game, as far as I want to try. Like I said, if I ever got an invisible weapon, I would have gone, but I'm not even looking for it anymore. For a while, I was like every day giving it like an hour or so to just try and grind for it and just getting nowhere with it. And I know you could use the RNG manipulation, and there's still time that I might, but I don't know, I'm just not up for it. I think like it'd kill some of the like satisfaction in getting it. It's like if there was a way of manipulating getting shinies in Pokemon, it would kind of ruin the fun a little bit. Like, even the ways that are supposed to be there to manipulate aren't the most helpful. Oh, and it's our second encounter with the thing, so we can boost that chain to get a better chance of getting a Mega Elixir, so I have everyone reset. And there's a lot more zombie warlocks in here than the last one, which is a little bit annoying. You can see I back off a little bit because I want to turn on everyone's gambits again to deal with this. What's it, free Gil? Ugh. Well, I can't turn on Balthier's gambits because he just died. And both our active members are being put to sleep, which is just like, this went to hell really quickly. Really quickly. I was like, okay. Like, these guys aren't even that bad. It's just because of how many there was, and the fact that our gambits were turned off, so we were just standing there like sitting ducks. He's going to keep on trying to bomb us as well. There goes Balfour and Ash again. At this point I'm like, what the hell? Why are you dying? Like, you know, book it again, because I'm like, this is insane. But then I've been saying this from right at the very start of the Let's Play. Sometimes it really doesn't matter how high your level is. If you're outnumbered, you will still really feel it. And this is a perfect example of what I mean. We're very strong here. We're far stronger than most of the enemies in this area. In fact, I'd argue we're overpowered. But because there's a whole treasure trove of them and they caught us off guard, they were giving us heaps of trouble. And the fact that most of them turn into Necrofiends when it's only like a small chance is just more salt on the wound. Like, at this point I'm like, you know what, screw this. It's just going to be more problem if I let these guys linger around, so I just leave. And I was like, you can just stuff it, I'll come back. Get everything off. So I got poison and sap, which is just a bit mean. The worst trio is to get poison, sap, and disease. Because not only are you constantly losing health, but you're not going to be able to get any of it back. And it's a lot faster, because both poison and sap reduce your, like, tick down your max health. So if you're inflicted with both, your max health drops quite quick. Neither sap or poison, I think, can actually kill you. I think they will stop your health at 1. Because this is after they made that change. It made it so poison can't just end you. And it started to become quite common for RPGs as a whole after this point, where poison it couldn't kill you in games. It would just reduce you to nigh on death. Of course, there are some exceptions to the rule. Shin Megami Tensei will still happily let poison murder you if it's up for it. And it's quite brutal as well. Mainline Shin Megami Tensei, my god. The amount of damage the poison does to you per turn gradually increases, it feels like. I don't know if it's actually how it works, but more so in SMT4. Like, if the first one did 100 damage, the second hit would do like 150. And like, your health max isn't that high. Like, it's the same with any Atlas game. Your health, if it goes above 999, you're probably exploiting something. It usually doesn't go any higher than like 600. Like in SMT4 and 4A, there are ways of manually extending your stats so you can get more than 1,000 health that way, but still. And so when something's hitting you with 100 damage, that more often than not, it's like a sixth of your health that just goes. And you're like, okay, alright. Instead of it just being like a sliver, it just rips out a sixth. Can you imagine if, like, Pokemon, if you got poisoned in that and you just did like a sixth of your health? It'd make poison so much more terrifying. And I know there's technically badly poisoned, but even then, that's only an eighth. Like, that's not as bad as, like, what SMT can do. And I'm still waiting for the day that they make it more specific, the difference between poison and badly poisoned, because the only way you're going to notice the difference is in the text. And what I mean is when you get, if someone hits you with Toxify, it will say blah 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 is badly poisoned, instead of just saying blah 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 is poisoned. But if you don't know there's actually a difference between the two, you won't register it. You won't really give it a second thought. Also, here's our last black orb, which gives you 96, meaning you have more than enough to get the rest of these guys. No, this is the one that has the chest in it, which is why there's no enemies in this room. So the top bracket. I didn't even check the corner. Oh, I must have just forgot. But yeah, the invisible chest is in that room. If you check the just run around the corners, go back through the door, go back through it, run around the corners, rinse and repeat until you either die or get lucky. Just to get the inferior invisible weapon of the two actual weapons that can do damage. Because the invisible shield is only so good. But whilst we're back here, you'd think I'd go and get Holy, but no, I don't do it until post-game. Because I mentioned when we was coming the main section of the Pharos Tower. During the first ascent, if you kill enough of the Flamehead's beings, you can open up even more optional paths, and one of them will lead you to Holy. Which we do get, but it's just in post-game. It just, I wasn't that fast at maxing out all the magic spells and techniques at this point. I knew I was going to do it in post-game anyway, so I was like, well, if there's the odd one that I miss, I'll just get it in post. Speaking of post-game, it's looking to be 4 videos long. Because there's one hunting down and getting our rematch with Zodiac, as well as cleaning up a few hunts. You've got one which is the second visit to the Great Crystal. One whole video that's Yzmat, and then the final video is clearing up everything we've missed. And that's showing off trial mode. Oh yeah, at this point I don't care so much about these guys, so I'm just kind of like, you know what? They had their chance. I'm leaving. But that being said, we are actually extremely close to the end of the game. How close? Well, tomorrow, or whenever the next part comes out, we're entering the Sky Fortress Bahamut. This is the last extra thing I wanted to do. Clearing out the sub-terror of the Pharos Tower was the last thing I wanted to do before we go. But once you've opened this up, and you've accepted the Shadowseer quest, you'll then be able to go down to the unknown final floor, to which the Shadowseer hunt will await you. And this fight's curious, and you can kind of tell by the fact it's got different music, this one's going to be a bit odd. It's also only 1 of 3 hunts that has a boss bar, the other one being Gilgamesh and the other one being, well, Yzmat. When you get partway through the fight, the Shadowseer will acknowledge you to an extent. It wishes to play. Arise, my servants, arise! And will start re-summoning the bosses of the Pharos Tower. So you'll have another round with Pandemonium, another round with Slit, etc, etc. That also includes Phoenix, because I said Phoenix is one of the 4, it's just bizarrely optional. If you haven't killed Phoenix before you try to go down here, it will also stop you coming down here. There's a lot of little prerequisites you have to do. You need to have accepted the hunt, you need to clear out every floor of the Sub-Terror, and you need to have killed all 4 of the optionals. All 4 of the Pharos Guardians. Pandemonium, just like before, it pretty much isn't different. Like, I don't think the stats of the bosses it summons are much different. They are a little bit, like I think they're a little higher because this is later on, but it's not by much. The main annoyance is, like with Pandemonium for instance, it's just the fact that, like before, it's a giant wall. It's just a big tank. But because we've already got a boss bar, it doesn't get one, it gets a normal bar this time. Shadowseer can't be hurt whatsoever until all 4 of the beings are dead. So once you kill Pandemonium, it will immediately summon Slit. And just to be more annoying, Shadowseer will also have pretty much every single status buff on it to just make it so you really can't do anything to it. It will also try and spam Fear on you, and Fear is something we've dealt with a few times before, and it's never friendly. Fear is all about targeting your MP instead of your HP. Reducing your MP to such a tiny amount as, oh god, as everyone just gets hit with everything. Reducing your MP to such an amount that you can't really use it for any good. I'm so glad Fear's not in the 7 remake, because you'd never have that much MP in 7 remake. Which I get's the point, because it's supposed to be the first act of the story. I can imagine that number will increase when part 2 comes out, and increase a little more when act 3 comes out to make it more fitting of the original 7 where you would be. But my god, like, I'm like, without spoiling anything, I'm at the point of no return. Like, the game has given me a clear warning that when I advance the plot any further, I'll be locked into it until I beat the game. So I'm like wrapping up all the side quests I can do for now, and just doing all the little extra things, like a few rounds in the Colosseum and such. And it's like, even when I'm fighting normal enemies, like sometimes I want to use Firaga, and I'm looking at how much it costs, and I'm like, wow, yeah, you can get the cost down, but still. But once you're done with the first one, as I said, it will summon in the next one. So now Slit is back, and just like before, Slit is the polar opposite of Pandemonium, in the sense of it has no real defense at all. As you can see, it's already nearly dead again. It's dead again. Poor Slit. Both encounters of Slit have ended in like 5 seconds. I just feel bad for the thing. But it does have really good attack stats, so if you let it linger around for a while, it will cause problems. So next we have the middle ground, good old Fenrir over here. And then after that we'll have Phoenix again, which is, you know, aerial problems. But as I said before, if you've got this far, I think you'll be fine. Yeah, I'm aware my whole party's level 70 now, so they are pretty powerful. But still, I don't think, even if you haven't done that much of the optional stuff, I don't think it's impossible for you to win this. I think you'll get through. But that being said, if you have been doing everything extra and making your way along to make yourself super powerful, still don't underestimate this fight. The whole point of it is it's just constant. It's always trying to summon new things and put the pressure on it. It's a bit of an event, and it will take a while. Next is the Phoenix though, and just like before, it can fly. So unless you've got telekinesis that for some reason will work on other classes but not the ones you expect it to, you're not getting anywhere. But what also doesn't help is that the Shadowseer will also attempt to make the Phoenix live forever. This is its last real chance of survival, and it knows it is. So it will start trying to buff the Phoenix and just trying to make it stronger in every condition, whilst every now and then just throwing a curse out there to just screw with you. As you can see here, like, confusion is the main thing you need to get off people, because then you can let your remedy law user, assuming you have someone who has all 3 pieces of remedy law, deal with the rest. The thing does throw you a bone though, and every now and then use invert so you can get all your MP back, because no matter how hard they try in this game, invert is never an enemy to you. Yeah, it makes your health super low, but it fills out your MP so you can immediately heal off the issue. And you've now got full MP so you can get back to what you're doing without worrying about wasting ethers. Like, do I need to explain? Oh yeah, at this point I just kind of want things to get a move on. So I'm like, even though it won't hit the Shadowseer, I want to get Balthier to start spamming Scathe, to start just getting some more raw damage in. But the thing's still immune to all damage, so we can't really do that much yet. It's more about just setting it in stone. And see that HP and MP is inverting. It's like, okay, great, now Balthier can use Scathe more. You clearly thought about that one. Thankfully the Phoenix is nearly dead. It's just got to take a few more pieces of punishment and it'll finally go down. Oh, it's the whole party gets hit with Feargo. That wasn't part of the deal. I mean, I'll just go stuff it. Having a Mega Elixir, just mitigate the issue. Not that I needed to, because it used invert straight after, but I just thought for the sake of getting a move on. We got one only earlier in this part, so we might as well use it. We didn't enter with it, there's no point leaving with it. It's not a pain to leave with it. But once you've done with all of them, no more servants will come, and any protection that the Shadow Seer had on itself will fail, allowing you to just kind of rinse it from this point onwards. It will spam flare though, which, you know, hurts, but it's not the end of the world. It really isn't a threat, so I take this opportunity to alter my setup. And I think this is... oh no, I just go Scathe outright. I just want to laser beam this thing to death. Like, eventually I get the idea to swap out his basic attack for shock, because it's heavy non-elemental magic damage, and it doesn't cost anywhere near as much as a lot of the other spells. It starts retaliating the Scathe though, by the way, which I think was a bit mean. It's like, that wasn't part of the deal. Especially with how much its magic stat hurts anyway. But this Shadow Seer, this secret hunt, it's actually, like I said, completely optional if you want to fight Yzmat. It's the only hunt you don't need to do in the whole do every hunt requirement. But once you've done it, congratulations, you've done one of the weirder and more out there hunts in the game. Shadow Seer vanquished. But as I've mentioned before, it isn't the only hunt still down here. I've mentioned it before, but there is one on the first floor of here that is a time base to show up, and I eventually just cut to when Xion shows up, or XII. As I said, on the first circle of the Subterra, every 6 seconds it runs a check to try and spawn this thing in. If it fails to check, the chances of it succeeding the next time will slightly increase. So if you just wait, it will always eventually spawn. It's just a long waiting game. XII here isn't too bad. It's just your main way of dealing damage to it is through magic, and so it's going to attempt to silence you to mitigate that. It is going to ask you to strategize a little bit more, but you don't have to worry about it too much, because although it's magic focus in terms of hurting it, if this game's proven anything to you at this point, just because it's magic focus doesn't mean physical attacks won't do the work. Especially in Barsh's case with his insane physical stat, even if he's wasting a lot of his time using echo herbs to try and save everyone else's neck right now. There's also another enemy that spams Fearger. I think every single hunt we've done that involves the Pharos Tower has spammed Fearger on us, the cheeky fuckers. Just, you know, be a menace, to be as annoying as possible. But it's nearly dead, thankfully. It's just fighting us. I didn't need to use Scathe. We've got Flare. We've got single target tier 4, but I still kept on clicking on it like laser beam. It does the same damage. It's just Flare's single targets that costs less MP. But I've got half magic cost on Balthier now anyway, just because he needs it more being an aggressive mage. I kind of gathered with Ashe and her ridiculously high MP stat that it really doesn't matter to her anyway. But XII is vanquished, so all the hunts that I plan to do, and for, in all intents and purposes, pretty much everything I wanted to do, is now done. So all that's left is 20 minutes to clean up, and then next time we're taking on we're finishing the plot. So turn this in, get the Grand Mace and Scathe mote. Okay, for a bit of sport, no. Or even made us go through that once, we're not doing it again. Grand Mace, great tier 5 mace, but you know, if you're playing the Zodiac version, the Bona Biblius exists, and so it's just better. Scathe motes are quite nice though, 3 Scathes. Turn in XII as well, see what we get for XIN's head. Sapping bolts, oh, Ragnarok's pretty nice to have. Did I not pick up Ultima Weapon? I don't think I did, damn it. Well, I mentioned it last part, and that's kind of annoying because that means I will have to go back for it. Oh, and I did, oh. I finally remembered near the other part when we was in the second part of the Hen Mines. I was like, I died after I got the new armor set for Ashe. I hope I remembered to go back and get it, and I was really paranoid that I didn't. I just saw the glimmering robes on Balthier. I must have. Phew. I was like, oh. Oh, this is the main reason. I forgot I do this now. I thought I did this later. I take on the Behemoth King now. The Behemoth King, the fight itself is fine. It's getting the fight to appear which is the most frustrating thing in the game. Well, in terms of the hunts, there's certain other dungeons and areas that are more annoying, but in terms of just the hunts, this is the most annoying hunt to set up. Every single enemy in this area and the other one have to be completely cleared out. If you miss a single one of them, all of them will respawn when you return and re-enter. Most of them are hiding underground, so you're going in there and then you're going back out, and then you need to zigzag every zone like a dozen times before you go into the other one, and even then there's a chance you'll still miss one. But when you do get them, your only real test is that if you wander around near the southern border of the other area, the Behemoth King will be there. This gargantuan beast. As you see, you just pressed the wrong button out right there. I've been relatively good with that. I've been terrible with it with the 7 remake, because I keep on going to press triangle to bring up my menu, and it's not. Triangle's an attack button in 7 remake. Which is a neat choice to have 2 different attack-based buttons, so you can have more diversity in your combo making and such. But it really throws me off when I'm so used to triangle being the menu button in every Final Fantasy. Like, actually having to press a pause button to bring up the pause menu just seems weird. As dumb as it sounds, if you've played a Final Fantasy game, you get what I mean. Like, before 15, triangle was always the pause button. I like that select is the map, though. And it's a very good map in the remake. It's very helpful and just lists everything you need to know. Automatically landmarks things that might be of worth to you, and in general it's just really helpful. But I should probably talk about the Final Fantasy game we're playing instead of the one I wish I was playing. Well, I wish I was playing more of. The Behemoth King is a brutal hunt in of itself. When you finally get to it, there's nothing more frustrating than losing to this guy after everything you have to do to even get to him. But the Behemoth King is just a powerhouse. There's no real way of putting it. He has a lot of health, like more of any hunt that we've done up until this point. But that's not the real threat. It's just getting into a pattern with this guy, because when he whacks you, he bloody whacks you. It's the only real way to put it. When he hits you, you feel it. His attack stat is insanely strong, and his magic is a lot better as well. Thankfully, we have that demon shield on, so anytime it uses Dark Gerb, we're just getting health back, which is quite appreciated. So instead, he just beats Barsh up. He's like, no, alright. So if you're just going to drain my magic. However, the biggest thing for this boss, and I mentioned it for a few other ones, when he goes to physically attack, he needs to be facing you. I've mentioned it before. I've mentioned it a few times, actually, when we fought some of the other difficult hunts in the game. So, if you want the Behemoth King to be a little bit more bearable, have your best physical defense-based attacker be opposite the rest of your party. Like what I'm doing now with Barsh being opposite Ash and Balthier. So then, if it decides to stop attacking Barsh, because it's going to from time to time, it has to very slowly turn around, giving you time to compensate and act on it. Also, yeah, this is where I'd make it so Chronos Tier will activate on any condition. So that means if any of the allies or myself gets stop or slow, they will always use it, kind of thing. There's less precautions to use on it, which means I will burn through my item stock a little bit more, but as you can tell, that's not much of an issue. I stocked up. If you ever pay attention to my inventory, I keep pretty well stocked up. There's no real excuse to not be at this stage in the game. Oh, just for the sake of, just in case Barsh gets it, I throw on the Chronos Tier on Balthier as well. Yeah. It doesn't stay there. It's just more so for this fight to just give Barsh a better chance in case he's the one that gets targeted. Rake terrifies me. I always mention it. Every time an enemy has an attack called Rake, I always get worried. It's just because it hurts so much. It does so much insane damage when you're hit by it. It just... you have to kind of take it in every time. The only black magic spell we're missing, Scourge, is similar to how Shock works, where it's heavy, it's tier 3, non-elemental damage, but it's group-wide, similar to what Scathe does for Flare. If you want to get it now and you're wondering where it is, when you've got the key back into the Valheim passage, you know where we went to get the skeleton-looking dude, Esper. And it's also where we first found Barsh, right at the start of the game. If you backtrack all the way through, right to the very start of it, where there was that merchant lying down, he will sell it to you. Which is a very obscure merchant to go back to, but if you do, he will sell it to you. But he's another thing that I just go back for and clean up, because that's a long hike. Even with the game speed sped up, it's still a very long distance to get to him. And this game, to be honest, watching the footage back, this game looks even slower than it already is because of how snappy the 7 remake is. And I don't mean necessarily in terms of pacing. The 7 remake's pacing is a lot quicker than 12's is, but I don't necessarily put that as a bad thing. I think 12's pacing for the story it's trying to tell is perfectly fine. I just mean more in terms of the actual gameplay. 7 moves at a breakneck pace when you're in combat. Like, it is very action. And I'm completely down for that. What's this? Even ignoring the fact that they were still trying to lean a little into almost like the turn-based nature of it, there's still the fact that everything has to charge up time. Every action takes a while to charge up. If you're playing on the base PS2 version, the game feels like it's literally in slow motion because every character takes forever to even move to swing their sword for the attack, and you're sitting there like, what's going on? Like, everyone moves at a snail's pace in base 12, making a game that I'm gonna get into 50 parts, something that will turn into like 200, which is something that, as I mentioned when I started this, was paranoid we was gonna hit. Like, I was pretty adamant this project was gonna be longer than any other game we ever played on this channel, and the fact that it's now kinda not gonna be, because most of the videos, yeah, a lot of the videos in this project have been pretty meaty. Like, we haven't had any real short videos like we have done with some of the other big projects. It's still 10 videos shorter than Neptunia and 15. Neptunia is one that surprised me more. I was almost convinced Neptunia would be shorter than 15 when I was recording that. So the fact it was ended up being as long, well, arguably longer, because I had longer videos in Neptunia more often, that was baffling to me. I was like, huh. I do want to cover another anime JRPG. I want to cover the older Neptunia games, but all of them are only on Vita, unless you're in Japan, in which case the original was, well, the original's remake got ported to PS4. Because you got, if the Neptunia series, and I'm getting off track again fighting this thing, but this fight, you know how it works by now. It's very difficult, and the physical attacks are brutal, but once you get past that, it's fine. It can make itself immune to magics, but you're probably doing most of your damage with physical attacks anyway. Like with the Neptunia series, the way it works is that there's 4 mainline games. You have the original, you have Mark II, Victory, and Victory 2. All 4 of them, to some intents and purposes, has been remade. So you got Rebirth 1 for the original, Rebirth 2 Sister Generation for the second, Rebirth Victory Generation for Victory, and V2R for, which is Victory 2 Rebirth. But it's also a play on for the fact that they had VR components in it. But all of them, like, the original, well, the first 3 Rebirth games, the remakes of the first 3 games, all of them were on Vita, and I want to say put on Steam. Like, I know the original is definitely on Steam, but I don't know about Rebirth 2 and 3. I want to say they are. The amount of times I've seen Rebirth 2 at 60 frames per second tells me it must be on Steam. It's only 30 on Vita, which is baffling because Rebirth 3 is 60 frames. But all 3 of them are so good. I know I've kind of lost the trail of my point here, but all 3 of them I'd happily cover on this channel at some point. Yeah, Rebirth 1 is dated as hell, and you really feel it when you go into Rebirth 2 and 3, and you guys, if you've never played it, will feel it more if all you've seen is my Let's Play of it, of the 4th game. Like, if you go back to the original, you have to accept that the original is kind of dated compared to the rest of the series, and you also have to accept it's not canon. Because the first game is based in a different dimension than the rest of the series. And they kind of did that deliberately, because the first game is more of a test to see what works and what didn't. And so the second game onwards is the execution. So the second game onwards is based on the real main cast. Whilst the first one is an alternate dimension of an alternate version of each character. Which is weird, because if it really didn't do well and they never got to make a sequel, which, by the way, the original didn't do well when it first released. It was the second game that got its face in the scene in any kind of sense, and then Victory that properly got its face on the scene. Like, that was a daring risk, because the first game, like, the series is called Hyperdimension Neptunia, yet the first game is based in Super Dimension. That's your hint. The second game onwards is based in Hyperdimension. But then following that, that means the first game is actually based in hyperdimension. You're not even playing as Neptunia. Like, you're not even playing as good old Neptune. Because the second game is all about the sisters. So your main party for a good chunk of the game is Netgear, Uni, Rom and Ram. Which is fine. A lot of people were critical on them because Netgear isn't as funny as Neptune. But I don't think Netgear is a bad character. Like, I think that she was perfectly fine for how much more serious the second game is compared to the first. The second game kind of caught me off guard of how much... Like, it's still funny and it's still cheeky, but it's a lot more mature. Like, there's a lot of darker elements that kind of show its face in that game that the third game kind of tones down on a little bit, and then the fourth game brings back in the third act with Uzume and the truth behind her. Another idea that might be worth doing when you're fighting the Behemoth King is, if you've been following along, there's no real excuse to not have 3 bubble belts, so equip them on your whole main party so all 3 of you have got double health. So you'll all have over 10k health at this point, probably. Or just about to hit it if you're a little lower level than me. Oh yeah. Balthier wasn't saving Barsh from stopping. I was like, what's going on? It was just he was too far away, so the programming didn't kick in. But this monster is nearly dead, thankfully. That's the only thing that's annoying. Once you've actually got the pattern down on some of these bosses, it just gets annoying because it's just like, well, you've got it down now. It's like with the Brave New World mod for Final Fantasy VI. It's an amazing mod, by the way, and if you have the Steam version... Well, no, not the Steam version. It's based on the NES PC version. Like, if you get the SNES emulator and you run the mod off that, because the Steam version is based on the mobile phone port, which is shit. So no one uses it. They just play the SNES emulator and mod that instead. But if you play it, that's main issue I had as well was the same. Where it was just the bosses, some of them had way too much health, so when you finally got the strategy down, you'll just add them forever. But this thing is nearly dead, thankfully. We even managed to get another quickening unleashed on it. Not that it helps that much, because this thing's got so much health that you barely notice it. Speaking of, this thing actually has 1,668,491 health. Which is not as high as, say, like the Hellworm, with its like nigh on 10 mil, but that's still a hell of a lot. But it is, I know I keep saying it, but it's nearly dead. It's nearly dead. It makes itself immune to physical when it's almost dead, but just like all other let's make ourselves immune based attacks, it only lasts for a set amount of time. So you can kind of push through and get some work done on it anyway. It's just getting the last chunk done. But to be honest, everything to do with the Behemoth King, like, I can't sit here and be like, oh, it's not that bad. Oh, it's not that bad. Because it is. Because if you've messed it up and die at any point during this, you have to do the whole back and forth between these two fields to kill everything again to try and get it. And then it's the fact that he got far into the fight, it's a million odd health you have to tank through again because this thing's defense is so much higher than things like the Hellworm. And it's level 70, so if you're not near that level, it would just be problems for you. It's just everything about this guy kind of sucks, to be honest. The only good thing is when it's over the reward, because there's a reward that you will technically get and then a real reward for your trouble. But the real reward is a little tucked away. You have to look for it, and I will show where that is after we kill it. Because if you don't know where it is or don't know what I'm talking about, if I just told you, you're never going to find it. Back up on Mount Bert Omises, there's what looks like the top half of a dragon skull that's like gargantuan in one of the areas that's just like off to the side. If you go up to it, unequip your weapon and then bonk the nose, you'll get your actual reward for killing the Behemoth King, because it only appears after you've killed this thing. Which, yeah, I know is kind of obscure, but it is what it is. It's because the actual rewards you get isn't good, because it's a very poor individual that gives you the hunt for it anyway, so they don't have a reward to really give you. Which is fair enough. Sometimes the victory of killing the thing is its own reward, but if you want an actual reward, that's the way the game has you covered. You can see now at this point, I'm just like, come on. This thing just needs to die. It's still got a good, like, I want to say 20,000 left. But it's just being annoying. Well, it has more than that, because there's still a decent chunk. It probably has close to 60,000. I'm like, come on, just burn it, just attack it, just murder. Until that physical attack drops, it's still staying here. Because it whacks us with another rake, because heaven forbid it goes quietly. Thankfully, Balthir's shock is working wonders. To try and get some just base damage done. You know, when he's not trying to heal to stop the fact that everyone's getting beat up like mad. Like, come on, it's nearly dead. Just let that physical attack burn out, and then it's really dead. I can't remember if we kill it before it runs out of its physical immunity. I'm going to assume we do kill it because it's obviously not changing at this point. And I probably should have had Bash use a Scathe mote, but oh well. Yeah, you can see I'm really pushing for its defeat now. I'm like, come on. This guy's been alive for way too long now. It needs to go. Hey, there we go. Now we can start rinsing it. Ow. After he just rinses us. Well, it turns out it does run out of its physical immunity before we kill it. But there it finally goes, and you have to look pretty high to see the license points you get for that thing because it appears like above where it was. But I think it gave us 60. But that's where that thing is dealt with, and I was so happy. You can see I even go for like a little walkabout first before I cut off because I was so happy to kill that thing. How annoying this area is to get it set up. Let's say it's the most frustrating hunt in the game to set up. The fact that I did manage to get it all done is just like hooray. The fastest quick travel is to go back to Guravegan and go to the orange crystal there. But this guy over at the old dude's house, whose name slips my mind because he's really not that important anymore. Like after like the start of the game when you talk to him early on, he just stops being important to anything. You only get 250 gil and a Basilisk wine. So if you go back up the Burt Only Sace, unequip Varn, and then go up to this, the Worm Snout, punch it, it will drop your actual reward, which is 500,000 gil and the Rod of Faith. The Rod of Faith, I think, is the best rod for white mages. Yeah, look at the magic power boost. Anyway, next time on Final Fantasy XII for taking on the endgame. Till then, yo, take care.